Alrighty, so I'm back home after almost a week-long road trip where I did a lot of things, including went to both of the semifinal in the U.S. Open Cup. Went to Geodis Park in Nashville to watch the U.S. Open Cup semifinal against the Union. That was a very fun night, and certainly another MLS Stadium check off my list as well. And then yesterday I went to the U.S. Open Cup semifinal between Minnesota versus Austin, and not only I had less fun in that game, but yeah, as a Loons fan, I do not want to talk about that one. I mean, there's a reason why disappointment and heartbreak is imminent in terms of Minnesota sports. I mean, if you want to rank in terms, so what is the most heartbreaking loss in Minnesota United history? I think that one against Austin is gonna be right up there in the top three list in terms of the most heartbreaking, gut wrenching losses the club has ever suffered. But instead of talk about those games today, we are actually going to talk about some MLS game that happened in the middle of the week as well. Because despite the fact that we also have the U.S. Open Cup semifinal, and let's also not forget about the Canadian Championship as well, where Vancouver is able to move on into the final as well. We also had a couple of MLS game, a couple of makeup MLS game as well in the middle of the week. But let us begin by talking about the rematch of the Leeds Cup final between Inter Miami versus the Seattle Sounders. And for those that were thinking that is there going to be another brawl in this one, is there going to be hatred that's going to happen in this one, consider we saw what happened at the end of the full-time whistle when there was literally a brawl that happened at the end of this game. Well, I know some people might think that when there's some feistiness in one match, maybe it might carry into another. And it's not been long since that, of course, has happened. But more times than not, people don't know that that doesn't always tends to be the case. There isn't usually as much tension, unless, of course, if it's a derby game that carry into the next match. And in this one, there wasn't really too much of that hatred as well. Though I will say this was a match where, yeah, for Inter Miami, you can sense they want revenge in this one. I mean, I know it won't make up for the Leeds Cup final that they of course lost, but at least they get a little revenge in this one, and they definitely play like they want revenge in this one against the Sounders. Now in the first half, Alande was the game first shot, but he hits it right to Fry, just like the Leeds Cup final. Seattle with the possession early, not afraid to get at this Miami team, but unfortunately, unlike the Leeds Cup final where they finally got themselves the opening well, with the pressure, it didn't happen in this one. Instead, Miami gets the opening goal. It's Jordi Alba. He scored for Messi to give Miami a 1-0 lead. And yeah, for Stephen Fry, that is one that he would want to have back. And it turns out to be one of the worst games that Stephen Fry has ever played in a Seattle Sounders jersey. And maybe it's a sign that, yeah, he is started to get a little older, and maybe Father Time is starting to catch him up. But also that came off a bad turnover from Seattle as well, which yeah, you just can't do that against Miami. Turn the ball over badly and not expect to be punished. And this won't be the last time that Seattle would turn the ball over and they would be punished because of it. Fry would then deny Frey in the near post. Gotta say that must be rough for an announcer to have to mention, because that's a bit of a tongue twister and a very similar kind of name to say that. Luckily, I got it right in the first attempt. But Miami definitely have not forgot about the final. They definitely will show no mercy in this game. They look like they were having a purpose of trying to get revenge in this one. Ferreira would then hits it right to Ustari before the post, would deny Messi from 10 yards out. And yeah, that is one that you usually don't see that happen very often. And by the way, I just realized that my laptop is about to run out of battery, so better plug in or else this video will stop unexpectedly. Make sure is it plugged? Yeah, it's plugged in. So anyway, back to this. Yeah, the miss by Messi there. That is a very like Messi miss. I mean, that is one that you would have absolutely bet the house with the way that he was being patient and even kind of show off his move there to done a couple of Sounders defender. You would have expected him to bury that one 10 out of 10 times, and that's one of those rare moments that didn't happen. Fry would then deny Frey on the header in the 33rd minute. Miami continued to press hard for the second goal. Di Rosario would then head it wide from close range, but then in the 41st minute, Messi would score. He scored from Bright to give Miami a 2-0 lead, and let's just say that Stephen Fry, yeah, it's been a rough night for him. This is another one where he probably should have done much better, and it doesn't help the fact that he got flat-footed here. I'm not quite sure. Did he maybe got cheated a little bit, trying to lean one way? And yeah, when you're a goalkeeper like that, when you get footed like that, even if that shot wasn't hit very well by Messi, it's always hard to try to readjust yourself when you get flat-footed like that, and that just kind of capitalized off just kind of a rough night for Stephen Fry. Even though he did make some big save in this one. As a goalkeeper, as a life of a goalkeeper, it's not about the big save you made. It's about the mistakes that you made for the game that will largely overshadow. And here, these two goals that Miami has scored, you got to say, Stephen Fry absolutely done much better by his standards. But that also came off another bad turnover from Seattle as well. Again, it's almost like a carbon copy in terms of these two goals. Seattle turning the ball over in a bad spot that they shouldn't be, and then their goalkeeper Stephen Fry looked like Father Time had kind of started caught up to him with making saves that you usually see Stephen Fry made in his time. He did make a save though here in the 44th minute on Messi from close and there, but Rolf Robert then hits one right to a story. But we do head to halftime with Miami leading 2-0. They waste no time to make it 3-0 as Ian Frey would score from DePaul to make it 3-0. If I remind me, great delivery there from DePaul from the corner. Ian Frey was the first to get it, and yeah, this game seems like it's pretty much done and dusted. Di Rosario's then try to look for an answer, but the Woodward deny him, and then Morris would hit it wide from close in the 62nd minute. Vargas would then hits it right to the story in the 64th minute. Feels like Seattle kind of woke up a little bit, and for Miami, I said that even though this game seems like it's out of reach. Remember, a 3-0 lead this season, it's not a guarantee. I mean, we've seen some big leads that's blown. I mean, we almost saw a historic one last week in the Atlanta and Columbus game. So, yeah, you just think that for Miami, maybe they took the foot off the gas a little bit too much because in the 69th minute, Seattle does get one back as Ober Vargas, he loves scoring against Miami, don't he? I mean, he must be an arch nemesis right now for Inter Miami. But he scored again here against Miami from Morris and Rusnak to give my or gives the Sounders on the board here and reduce the deficit to two goals. Messi did look to restore the free goal lead, but he was absolutely robbed by Fry on a 1v1 opportunity. Silvetti would then put it over from long range. Seems like that goal that Miami conceded seems to woke up for them. It seems like it's almost like a wake up call that they can't just go neutral for the rest of the game and expect to hold on to this lead. And they're now trying to push to try to get this one out of reach. Muswowski would then hit it right to a story, but in the end, Miami does get the revenge in this one against the Sounder for the Leeds Cup final. They win 3-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 14 shots in this one for both of these teams. 8 shots on goal for the 6 that Seattle has. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Miami has. Both teams had 3 shots that was blocked possession-wise. 54% possession compared to 46% possession that the Sounders have. So not as much as you usually see in an Inter Miami game where usually they're heavily in favor in terms of the possession. So yeah, for Miami, obviously they're happy not only back to be back on the winning ways, but they basically can claim that at least they got some revenge for that Leeds Cup final. But for Seattle, their argument is, well, we'll take that. We'll absolutely take that. Trey, if we're gonna lose to Inter Miami, we'd rather lose in this game than when there's a trophy on the line. Though I will say that, but then again, you got to remember that these losses for the Sounders, these losses still counts toward the regular season standings. And I've mentioned before, this team is kind of in danger of losing their home field advantage, especially as we'll talk about this team that won the game is really charging up the standings. Yeah, for the Sounders, they can't afford to drop too many resort to a point where they could have a chance that they might lose home field advantage. And especially, as it stands, I believe if the playoffs started today, Seattle would play LAFC in the first round. Boy, that is going to be popcorn material in that free game series, especially the fact that it feels like, as the old saying goes, death, taxes, and Seattle and LAFC meet in the playoffs. Because I swear they meet in the playoffs like almost every single season, and it feels like they're on point of doing it again, heading this postseason again. Especially, we might see more than just the one game that happened in the postseason if both of those meet in the first round again. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is NYCFC versus Columbus, and Columbus is in deep trouble. I mean, you look at this team. I mean, yes, they of course finally broke their winless run, but in this game against NYCFC, and you could also say that this is pretty typical of NYCFC able to beat a pretty good opponent at home because that's kind of the MO for them throughout the season. But for Columbus, the big concern right now is that the goals that they have conceded on the defense, it's just gone out of hand. And I know, yes, they have a lot of injuries to deal with, but my goodness, if they don't sort out that back line, doesn't matter how good the attack is. The attack is definitely doing much better, especially with Abu Ali. Seems like he's already started to chip into his bargain, but it really doesn't matter because of the fact that the defense for these last couple of games has been absolutely atrocious. Now in the first half, O'Neal with the game's first shot, but he puts it wide before I thought NYCFC dictate the game early. Freeze denied Gastag, but falls to Abu Ali, and he was denied again by Freeze. The shots were 3-1 for Columbus 15 minutes in. So despite the fact NYCFC had most of the possession, Columbus actually had better of the chances. Pereira would then hits it right to Schulte before Martinez hits it right to Schulte again. NYCFC then started to generate some chances, and they were looking for the opener. O'Toole would then hits one right to Schulte before Gastak hits it right to Freeze from the corner in the 35th minute. But then in the 38th minute, penalty was given to Columbus as O'Neal brought down Abu Ali in the box. So here comes Daniel Gastak looking to try to give Columbus on the board. Usually does not miss from the spot, Daniel Gastak, and he doesn't miss here either. So that gives Columbus a 1-0 lead. That lead only lasted 8 minutes because in the third minute of stoppage time, just as we were about to head to halftime, Hannes Wolf would score to tie the game up at one apiece. Schulte did make a save there originally from Hayek, and to be fair, I feel like he could have done better in terms of parrying that one a little further because it falls right into the path of Hannes Wolf. He says thank you very much, puts it into the empty net, and the game was level at one apiece, and that would be the scoreline heading into the second half. But in the second half, Columbus does restore their lead as at the hour mark, Abu Ali would score here from Arston and Harbrune to give Columbus the 2-1 lead. O'Neal then looked to answer, but he missed just wide from long range. I thought it was a good response for NYCFC. They were now starting to push to try to get the equalizer again. And they do in the 73rd minute as Hannes Wolf, again, second time tonight, scoring the goal and second time tying the game for NYCFC. This time he scored from Ojeda and O'Neal to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Martins looked to get the lead, but he heads it right to Schulte from the corner. Momentum was all with NYCFC, and this is where if you're a Crew fan, you're thinking, oh boy, here we go again. The defense is gonna let our team down, right? Again, right? Because they're just hanging on for dear life late in this one. Schulte would then deny Ojeda from close before Seymour Reed heads it wide from the corner in the 88th minute. And just as Columbus thought that they did enough in terms of getting themselves a point in this one, they gave up a late goal just like they did in the first half. As in stoppage time, just like what we saw in the first half, NYCFC score. It's this time it happened in the fourth minute stoppage time as Julian Fernandez scored an absolute banger and a half. If this was actually a match week, this would definitely be vote for goal of the week, especially the pivotal moment of this game. So yeah, in the end, NYCFC gets the free 2 win in this one. The shots in this one, 17 shots with 8 that Columbus had, 5 shots on goal with 8 that NYCFC had, 3 shots off target with none that Columbus had, 3 shots off block with 6 that NYCFC has, and possession wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Columbus has in this game. And as frustrating as at times this season for NYCFC is in terms of losing to easy team, whether it's at home or on the road, lately they've been able to do well against these playoff opponent, and that's huge asset to do because heading into the playoffs, don't be surprised if NYCFC might cause an upset or two out there because again they have done very well when they face against some good opponent lately, and if there's a way to try to at least cause some chaos in the playoffs, then yeah, definitely NYCFC can do so. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to do the same thing that the other New York team did last year. I mean, what the Red Bulls did last year was absolutely unprecedented and something that I don't think we'll see it again this year in the Eastern Conference playoff. But I don't think people should take NYCFC lightly. Again, as long as they don't face against easy opponent or teams that are completely out of the playoffs, this team seems like they're definitely there to play, and this win also helped them in terms of getting themselves further away from the red line. But for Columbus, yeah, like I said, there's got to be a lot of concern. This looked like a team that unfortunately it looks like it's going to be one and done. Once again, with all the injuries that they have on the defensive end and them not able to keep the ball out the net, it doesn't matter how good they have on the attacking end. You don't keep the ball out of the net, and more times than not, you're not going to see very much in the playoffs. Now, moving on, in terms of the next match, is RSL versus LAFC, and this was a weird one because on the scoreline, if you didn't watch this game, you wouldn't have known that RSL actually was in this game for the most part, and I would kind of argue that they were maybe borderline a little bit better than LAFC in this one as well. But unfortunately, the problem for RSL in this one, as it is kind of the case that RSL fans have known before, problem with finishing. at home. They have had their issue not just this season, but really in the past couple of years that they have these kind of performance where they're the better side at times against their opposition, but they're unable to be clinical in terms of finishing. And while that happened, yeah, it turned out that South Korean dude called Sung Hyun Min, he definitely had a career night in this one, and will have definitely have a night to remember as well. Because after Luna with the game's first shot that missed wide in the second minute of stoppage time on the other end, Sung would score. He scored from Tillman to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC. It was also the first shot for LAFC as well. Ojeda did look to respond, but he hits it right to Larice. But then on the second shot of the game for LAFC, it's on the back of net. And guess what? It's that South Korean dude again, Sung Hyun Min. He scored from Holland's head to make it 2-0 in favor of LAFC. So LAFC had two shots this one. Both of them are from Sun. Both of them are in the back of the net. That just shows you how clinical that they were in this one, and that's another classic example of when you're the more clinical side against a team that weren't clinical. No wonder why LAFC were able to win this one relatively easily. Olatunji then looked to response, but he missed wide there before he hits it right to Lloris in the 20th minute. RSL definitely pressed back to try to get themselves one back. Olatunji then hits it wide from close before Yetlin puts it high from long range. Tafari then hits it wide from the corner in the 34th minute, and then Lloris would deny Ojeda from close in the first man stoppage time. So again, RSL, they're getting chances. Well, the problem is the finishing just have not been there up to this point, and as a result, we head to halftime with LAFC leading 2-0. So they had a chance to get one back immediately in the second half, as a penalty was given to RSL after Hollands had brought down Olatunji in the box. So here comes Ron Kut, a chance to finally score his first career MLS goal, and he struck the post from the spot. And again, I have never been a big fan of starter step. I can understand that some players want to do that because they want to try to catch the goalkeeper out. And to be fair, Cruz did do a good job in terms of catching Louise out. He was kind of a little unbalanced. But you got to put it on target. I mean, if you do all the hard work and you don't put it on target, that's got to be very frustrating. And in this case, he didn't put it on target. He hits the post there, and that won't be the last time we see the post be in action. In fact, it would be the beginning of the fact that both teams just all they did was hit the post, because on the other end, the post would deny Sung of his hat trick, and again, it was a long range effort as well, something that was a pretty common theme for Sung Hyun in this game in terms of scoring. And then on the other end, the post would deny Vera on the header. So basically, the post became a magnet, at least in the last 3 minutes. 3 posts that's been hit in 3 minutes. That's probably the quickest we have seen a hat trick of post that has been hit in a span of just 3 minutes. Cabral would then deny Nine Song of his hat trick in the 64th minute, but then the 75th minute, RSL finally scored the goal that they definitely needed, as Gozo would score the goal. And you know what's kind of ironic is that all the bad misses that RSL has had, this was probably the most difficult one to finish. I mean, Gozo basically scored an absolute golazo here, an overhead kick, connected very well in terms of the technique. So hey, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes when you can't finish in the easiest way. Sometimes you might try the acrobatic and maybe it worked out, and it worked out for RSL in this one. So you're thinking, well, RSL's back in this game, right? Well, no, because in the 82nd minute, that South Korean kid decided to complete a hat trick. And well, I say he's a kid. He's not a kid anymore. Sung Hyun is well into his 30s right now, but yeah, he definitely had a magical night, a night to remember, as he scored from Bawanga and Delgado to make it 3-1 in favor of LAFC. It also came off of a lightning counter attack as well, a trademark in LAFC, and wouldn't be the last time we see that happen too, because just 6 minutes later, it was a carbon copy goal. Bawanga would score from Martinez. This was also a milestone goal as well, because with Bawanga scoring this goal, he's now the all-time leader in terms of goal scoring in LAFC history. I think he passed Carlos Vela for that spot as well. And really, as I said, it was rinse and repeat, because it was just a lightning counterattack. And I can understand why RSL got caught in those counterattacks, because they were pushing so many men forward. They were really throwing men to try to get themselves the equalizer, but unfortunately, they weren't able to do so. And again, when you throw men forward against LAFC, you better score relatively quick, because eventually they're gonna look for those counterattacks, because that's kind of what they are built on. And just like that, the scoreline was 4-1. It was out of reach. And to add insult to injury for RSL, Olatunji would get himself a red card in this one. I mean, just a silly foul here. He basically shoulder bar. Well, I wouldn't say shoulder barks, but he kind of swing his arm towards Somalia. Smolyakov there it to the ground. I mean, Smolyakov did definitely sold it a little bit, but anytime when you swing your arm toward a player's head, I mean that is that a definition of violent conduct. So yeah, that just adds insult to injury for RSL in this one as they lose 4-1 in this one. The shots in this one, 20 shots for the 10 that LAFC had, 6 shots on goal for the 4 the RSL had, 5 shots off target for the 2 that LAFC had, 1 shot that was blocked for the 8 the RSL had, and possession-wise, 60% possession compared to 40% possession that LAFC has in this game. Now, the good news for RSL is that they still control their own destiny in terms of the playoffs. The bad news is they get to play LAFC again in a couple of days, and they're not going to have Olatunji for that game as well. Olatunji was definitely a menace in this one, but as it is the case with RSL in this game, they just couldn't finish, and now they're going to miss his present. And not to mention that game is at Bank of California Stadium, or now it's called BMO Field. That is, I can't believe I still remember the old name of LAFC Stadium. But yeah, that's gonna be rough for RSL. And I don't want to say that the playoffs have started to slip out of their hand because they still control their own destiny. But when with the way that they've been playing lately, it just feels like they're kind of heading the wrong direction, while teams below them are definitely heading in the right direction. Well, I wouldn't say exactly heading in the right direction. I mean, the playoff race is just in the West is just such a crapshoot right now. I mean, it's almost a miracle the fact that I have no idea how the San Jose Earthquakes are still above the red line right now. And if the resort continue to go like this and somehow the Quakes luck themselves out, they might somehow just back their way into the playoffs. Even though as I said in the last game when the Quakes play against LAFC, I thought that was it. I thought with the way that they gave up 3 goals in a span of 12 minutes and to begin the game, I thought you might as well just call a game. But right now, it just feels like it's a case that not only the race for the playoffs in the West is crazy, but it just feels like it's getting to a point where nobody wants to make it to the playoffs out of the West, at least for the last spot. That is, it's almost like a hot potato situation right now between teams for the last spot in the West. Where here you go, well you take the playoffs. No, you can have it. No, you can have it and stuff like that. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure to leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Tomorrow, of course, we'll do the preview of the weekend's action as MLS is once again back in terms of the full slate action. And the good news is, at least this weekend, we're not going to have every single game that's going to be happening between the 7:30 p.m. Eastern window all the way to midnight 30 a.m. I hate whenever that happens, where it's all the games are fit in such a tight window. At least there's going to be some variety this next weekend, and there's also going to be Sunday night soccer as well next weekend as well. And not to mention, I think next this weekend it's going to be we're going to have a return of some of those matinee games that is going to happen. It's been a while since we have seen matinee games happen on Saturday, but it is definitely returning as the calendar is soon turned to October. The season now turned to fall, and usually when we get to the fall, that's when that's where crunch time is in the MLS regular season. Before you know it, it's decision day, and before you know it, playoffs and MLS Cup is around the corner. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.